I married my wife 9 years ago. I do love my wife. We share a son together, and I could not imagine a life without her. My only wish is that she wasn't so insecure, but she's human. With that said, let's get started. My wife is 39 and struggles with a lot of insecurity. To remedy this, she surrounded herself with friends whom, truthfully, she thinks less of. Many of her friends have been out of shape, poor, mentally unstable, and such, and my wife has admitted that she feels like the stable and sensible one with all of them. When she's not talking about them like they're charity cases, she's usually insulting them. Before it's asked, my wife is in therapy and says she likes the therapist, but doesn't think she's truly the issue. Now, her youngest friend, 31, Candy, was one of the many friends my wife used for her security. Candy was a mess as a teenager, barely passed high school, couldn't hold a job, and was in and out of hospitals due to unmedicated mental health problems. My wife was probably the cruelest to her out of all her friends because Candy never really stood up for herself. At some point, we didn't understand how or what came over her, but Candy did a 180, got medicated, got her degree, and is now living in a nice country house with a well-paying job, her husband, and 3 kids. Watching Candy change over the years has messed with my wife a lot. She's been crueler to her and constantly insults her house, her job, and even how she raises her kids. She loves to mention all the mistakes Candy made when she was young. Candy never said anything until yesterday. We were at her house around a fire, and my wife asked how Candy could even be a fit mom after all her mental health problems. Candy, who was tipsy, looked at my wife and said, paraphrasing of course, "You know, when I was young, I took your words to heart until I learned you were just as messed up as me, and I realized to fully get back at all the ways you hurt me, there was no point in telling you or asking for an apology. It was simply by being better than you, and now I am." Now, I laughed, not so much out of humor, but more shock. I got a death glare, followed by my wife abruptly walking to the car and the threatening text she'd leave me behind if I didn't follow. We drove home in silence. When we got back, my wife was crying in the bedroom. When I tried to comfort her, she chucked all my stuff in my direction and screamed to leave. I now write this for my parents, who don't think I'm wrong, but at the same time, they don't like my wife. Am I the idiot? I join your parents here. You are not the idiot, but your wife is incredibly messed up, and you might give some thought to taking your son and leaving before she messes him up. You're so close to her that you may not even have a good view of how being with a person like her changes your brain and your sense of reality and right and wrong. See a therapist for yourself. My mother was like her, and I'm looking at my stepfather after their 30-plus years together. He's a husk of the man he used to be. He had to essentially toss out his own mind and replace it with hers because it was the only way to avoid her cruelty and abuse and survive next to her. OP lived by the mantra, I don't have to be faster than the bear, I just have to be faster than you. Unfortunately, Candy's been working out and has fresh Nikes, and now OP has just found out the bear is very hungry. You are the idiot for making excuses for your loathsome-sounding wife. You said, my wife preys on vulnerable people to bully and abuse, to feed her voracious ego. Poor little baby. She struggles a lot with insecurity. To remedy this, she has surrounded herself with friends who, truthfully, she thinks lesser of. Dude, are you sure this doesn't include you? And if it does, are you happy with that? If you do insist on staying with her, make sure you never have any more kids with her anymore. Your son's probably mostly safe, but if you ever have a daughter, your wife will do everything she can to wreck that little girl. I had the same thought. She would 100% view a daughter as competition. She's with him because she thinks she's better than him and likely tears him down to her friends, which should make him think harder about his choice of spouse and how she'll terrorize him as soon as he makes any positive changes in himself. It's one reason why he laughed when Candy tore his wife apart. He already knows what she'll do to him. Dig deeper into their marriage, and you'll find that OP has been humiliated by his wife more often than he's willing to admit publicly. Leaving her would be the intelligent thing to do, but he likes being Heather Duke to her Heather Chandler. But boy, I feel so bad for their kid. My 30 female, sister 27, is recovering. She got into sugar in high school 10 years ago and spiraled from there. By senior year, she was also skipping school more often than not. Finally, she got expelled on her 18th birthday. I guess that makes it much easier, and she basically disappeared. She'd only come by to ask for money, and when our parents refused, she'd cuss them out until they threatened to call the police. Eventually, she started stealing from them and me. She'd come by home to have dinner and take stuff out of my room. When I moved out, she'd wait till all my roommates were gone and steal our cash. She even tried to pawn my car while it was parked in my driveway. I wrote her off by the time she was 20, and 2 years later she finally got busted. She ended up getting 3 years and got released 2 years ago. She's clean, and our parents have rebuilt their relationship, but I haven't. That's because she still owes me $2,200 as of last week. She's paid off half of what she stole from me in money and belongings over the years. My only interaction with her is when she drops off the cash every week, and I don't speak to her. She's usually only able to give me $20 each week. She's not exactly rich, as you'd expect. Lately, though, it's been a little heavier. Last week, my mother called me and told me she's been skipping meals to give me extra cash. She wants me to stop and make up. I'm not considering that until we're square, and even then, it's just a consideration. I may well decide I don't want anything to do with her after, but either way, I want my money. But my mother says that's manipulative. So am I the idiot for making my sister pay back all the money she stole from me years ago? Not the idiot. She's doing what she has to do to make amends. If that means paying you off in full, then it's best if she does it. It's not your mother's business. It's between you and your sister. I'm glad she's clean and working towards healing your relationship. Yes, but the mother is right about one thing. Someone is being manipulative, but it's not OP. It's Mom. She has nothing to do with what the siblings have going on. I honestly think for Sis to fully prove herself and make amends, she needs to be made accountable for what she's done. If it means repayment, she needs to do it. Mom is still enabling. Unpopular opinion, but you are the idiot. OP, you want her to have this constant reminder every time she sees you that she messed up while dangling a carrot of maybe forgiveness if she grovels enough in the right way for long enough, and that's an idiot move at the end of the day. Making her come to your house weekly to drop off money and refusing to speak to her sounds like some weird manipulative revenge power trip that cannot be healthy for either of you. How long has this been going on? All 2 years? Listen, her getting sober will have been harder than you can imagine, and you should respect her for that and for starting to pay you back. Is it an apology you want? If so, say so. Forgiveness is hard, but constantly punishing her this way drains both of you. She's already paid half back. If I understand correctly, she's skipping meals. She's been clean for years. She's doing her best. Maybe you can start a relationship. Don't want to sound savage, but she was probably skipping meals for the old habit. It's about what you prioritize. OP has yet to ask her sister to skip meals to pay her back earlier. She started doing it to pay back larger amounts than the previously agreed upon $20 a week. That's her choice because she wants her debt cleared faster, likely because she's hoping for reconciliation after. I've been at this company for about 2 years now, and one of my coworkers, John, and I have become good friends and get along well. We're both happily married and just friends, though we do catch up on life during work hours. My husband has been away on a business trip for 2 weeks now. John and I were chatting in the office this morning, and I mentioned that I'd been at my house alone for the past week and was pretty bored without my husband. He asked me what I like to do to pass the time, and that I must be a bit pent up with my husband gone for that long. I was surprised he said that, but I feel comfortable enough around him that it didn't bother me, and I chalked it up to playful banter. I jokingly told him I knew exactly how to please myself when my husband is away. He got really awkward and uncomfortable, and we've been distant since. I just checked my inbox, and there was a meeting on my calendar from HR. I tried to message John, but he wasn't responding, and my manager came by my desk and told me that my behavior was ridiculous and to not speak to John until I was told otherwise. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. And this man has the gall to complain about you? Wow. When he says, "Oh, I didn't mean it that way," you can say, "Well, clearly I didn't mean my comment the way your filthy mind took it. You know I love to cook. Of course I was talking about cooking and eating whatever I wanted without worrying whether my husband will like it." When you get to HR, be utterly confused. Yeah, I get to eat all the chocolate chip cookie dough alone when my husband is gone. I don't even have to bake the cookies or clean up right away. I get to please myself and do what I want. I'm sorry, is there a problem? It's their interpretation that makes it about intimacy. They cannot prove otherwise. And your coworker's trying to sabotage you. You please yourself by reading alone. You please yourself by watching movies your husband wouldn't watch. You really please yourself by doing what you can't do when your husband is around. Your coworker needs to get his mind out of the gutter. Update. I just got out of my meeting with HR. I was able to convince everyone that it was just a misunderstanding and that I meant I could entertain myself while my husband was away. It's interesting that John didn't bring up his comment in the HR complaint. I brought that up myself, and he got scared and began to say that he meant that I must be bored in the house, all alone with nothing to do. I let him have it. They won't be pursuing a formal investigation because they're chalking it up to a misunderstanding, but they keep everything on record in case anything happens again. They're temporarily moving John to a different team, and my manager apologized to me for being harsh with them earlier. I will not be speaking to or interacting with John going forward. My life has taken a turn for the dramatic recently, and I'd like opinions from strangers to help navigate it. My sister, 27, met her fiancé, Matthew, 24, male, 2 years ago. They were dating for a year before getting engaged and moving in together, approximately 3 months ago. I, 24, male, met him pretty soon after she did, and we became instant friends. I don't think you could scroll either of our camera rolls to any point over the last 2 years and find a screen that doesn't include a photo of one or both of us. The kid has been my +1 to every work event I've had. He's at my apartment constantly, and we fit into each other's pre-existing friend groups to the point where they've merged. The point is, we're very close. For years I've joked that I'm keeping Matt in the breakup, or if you don't marry him, I will, a ton in the past. I truly meant the former of those statements. There was very little that could happen that would make me want to cut him out of my life. This all brings us to the fact that Matt and my sister broke up 2 weeks ago. And true to my word, he moved in with me almost immediately. I also allowed him to move in with me over my sister, who also asked me to do so for a few weeks. The reason I made the decision I did is because I didn't agree with her actions leading up to the breakup whatsoever. She read his journal and broke up with him based on things she read there, which I find to be one of the lowest places you can stoop in terms of invading someone's privacy. My sister's livid because I chose her ex over her, forcing her to stay with our parents over an hour away from her job. Neither of them can afford the apartment they previously had alone. She said what I did was a huge betrayal and that her family should always come first. My parents are trying to stay unbiased and understand how close I am to Matt, but they said they still wished I could have let her stay for a few weeks. Am I the idiot? Edit. Matt is identified as neutral around intimacy for a long time, but had recently begun to rethink that. It was something he had talked to me about and something he had written in his journal, but had yet to speak to her about it. He had also written about his shifting views on relationships and how relationships between two men seem deeper than a relationship between a man and a woman. You are the idiot. You don't really need an answer to this, do you? In what world are you not? From the sounds of it, you tried from day one to steal your sister's boyfriend and clearly crossed lines in terms of your friendship with him. You obviously had feelings for him from day one and are either lying to yourself or to him. Even if this wasn't the case, you had no respect for your sister if you had him to move in immediately. How long have you been sleeping with him? I'm positive their relationship ended because of you. This post reads like a pick-me attitude. It's sick that you did this to your sister, in my opinion. It's laughable for you to say your sister went the lowest when you've gone even lower. You wanted them to break up, and it's really weird you kept telling her how much you wanted to marry him. I wouldn't be shocked if in the journal she found him writing about how he's cheating on her with you. You're a crap brother. I'd be interested to know your sister's perspective. I imagine you've conveniently left certain things out, such as the build-up to why she checked his journal if she hadn't done similar things in the past. You'll undoubtedly get engaged to your sister's ex-fiancé and expect her to attend the wedding and the rest of the family to be supportive. Who needs enemies with family like you? I'm getting married soon and want to have my little sister, Tween, as my junior bridesmaid. She's in love with princesses and anything princessy. She even has a gorgeous white princess dress that she's always wanted to wear. She asked me if she could wear it for my wedding, and I said, why not? Go ahead. She looked so happy and she was very excited, especially because we let her buy high heels, and my parents allowed her to wear makeup for my wedding. When my fiancé found out, he was against it. He argued that she shouldn't wear a white princess dress for our wedding. It was inappropriate. I told him that I didn't have a problem with it, and I didn't think a kid was going to outshine me, and asked him if he was worried that she would outshine him. To be fair, she probably will outshine him. She's going to be the cutest princess. He called me ridiculous and said that since my sister can wear that, then it's okay for his sisters to wear something like that. I told him his sisters are 23 and 21 and a bit old for that, but sure, why not? I could use a good laugh at my wedding. I told him he was acting crazy and I cared more about my sister because I've known her longer. He called me an idiot and he thinks since it's our wedding, this should be our decision. Am I the idiot for telling my fiancé that he's acting crazy? Not the idiot. While he's also obviously allowed to make decisions with regards to the wedding, it's just plain weird that he thinks a tween and a 23-year-old wearing white to a wedding is equivalent, especially if he thinks that a child would outshine him. We actually had my nieces in white for our wedding. All we did was tie ribbons in their hair to match the color of the other bridesmaids. It made every match really nice. Saying you care more about your sister because you know her longer is really telling. You're marrying him, and your sister shouldn't have more say in the wedding than him. I'm sorry, but you are the idiot. Your sister isn't getting married. You and your fiancé are. Yes, she should have a nice time, but it isn't her big day. The fact that you're so dismissive of your partner's wishes and preferences for both of your wedding day is rude. Your sister is young, but she's old enough to understand that it isn't her big day, that she has to wear something else, etc. Her fiancé is an adult. He shouldn't be so jealous of a kid. I'm sorry, that's pathetic. Nothing about this moment is making the day about her sister. He's acting like more of a child than the actual child. Guys can be bridezillas too. Is he a groomzilla? A grown man shouldn't have an opinion on what his underage niece will be wearing to a wedding. No, the bride shouldn't have a discussion about this. There's nothing to discuss. This is a non-issue that's been made into an issue by the groom.